Part 1, Segment 1, The Night Glenwood Opened. I don't know if this account will stay up, or if anyone who reads it will believe a word I type. But I'm sitting in a motel room that smells like stale cigarettes and wet carpet, and there's something moving behind the curtains even though the AC isn't on, and I'm starting to think this might be the last safe place I'll have for a very long time. So I'm going to write everything down, exactly as it happened. If someone out there has the authority to stop what's coming, you need to pay attention. And if you don't believe me, honestly, I envy you. I used to live in that kind of world, where nightmares stayed in dreams and dead people stayed in the ground. I'm Melanie Callis, Glenwood Springs, Colorado. And last night, a town opened. 1. The EAS alert. The first sign that something was wrong wasn't the explosion. It was the emergency alert system, blaring from every screen in our house at once. It was 9:14 p.m. I remember because I just joked to Lynn that if her Tinder date didn't text her back by 9:30, he probably died doing CrossFit. She'd been staying with me and my mom for a few weeks, a fight with her roommate, something about stolen makeup, I don't know. Lynn's always dramatic, but that night she looked relaxed. Comfortable even. She'd made popcorn. She'd stolen my blanket. She'd laughed at me for crying over some documentary about ghost sightings. Then the screens went black. My mom's TV in her bedroom. My laptop in the living room. Even my phone, plugged in on the coffee table. Everything flashed to the EAS screen at once, a blood-red banner with no audio. Then the words appeared. Critical incident, remain indoors. Await further instruction. Lynn groaned. Is this another drill? Jesus, Colorado loves its drama. My mom walked in from the hallway, hair tied back, dish towel in one hand. The blue of the alert reflected across her glasses. She frowned, but it wasn't confusion on her face, it was something sharper. Something I didn't understand yet. This isn't a drill, she whispered. How do you know? I asked. She didn't answer. The TV flickered. The EAS banner stuttered. For a split second, the screen showed what looked like a room, white walls, harsh lights, and then it was gone. Replaced by an automated voice. Attention residents of Glenwood Springs. An event has occurred at the Coal Basin Research Facility. Stay inside. Do not look outside. Lock all. The audio broke into static, then a single sustained tone that hurt my ears. Wait, Lynn said, sitting up. Coal Basin? Isn't that? My mom cut her off. We're going downstairs. Now. The urgency in her voice was new. My mom is calm in disasters, she handled my dad's funeral without crying once. But something about that facility name rattled her. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Wi-Fi dead. Cellular dead. Everything dead. The lights flickered. And then the whole house shook. 2. The explosion. The blast hit like a punch through the earth. Not a boom, more like a deep, subsonic roar that made my ribs vibrate. A picture frame fell off the wall. The dog next door started barking non-stop. What the hell was that? Lynn asked. My mom didn't speak. She just hurried to the living room window and pulled the curtains shut with a sharp, terrified motion. That scared me more than the explosion. Outside, I'd glimpsed something strange, the sky wasn't dark anymore. It was gray. Like cloud cover. Except the shape was circular. No, not circular. More like a dome. Mom? I asked. What's going on? She wasn't looking at me. Her eyes were wide, staring at nothing, like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. Melanie, she whispered. Get your keys. What? Why? Her voice came out trembling and low. Your father says you need to leave. My blood froze. My father is dead. She shut her eyes, and when she opened them, something was wrong. Her pupils were dilated. Her breath came out in short, cold puffs. And when she looked at me, really looked at me, I felt myself take a step back without meaning to. Because the woman standing in front of me was my mother. But the voice that came out of her was not. "Bub, you have to go." My father was the only person who ever called me Bub. Not even my mom used that nickname. I had never heard anyone mimic his voice accurately. It had this rasp on the vowels, like he chewed on his words before letting them out. But now that voice was coming from my mother's throat. Lynn inhaled sharply. Holy shit. My mom's head jerked toward her, and when she spoke again, that voice was back to normal, trembly and afraid. "Don't open the door," she whispered. "They are here." "Who's here?" I asked. Her hands were shaking. "Shadows. 3, the things in the street." Before I could ask anything else, the lights went out. Not just our house, the entire neighborhood. Silence followed, the kind of silence where every hair on your arm stands straight up. Lynn, stupidly, went to the living room window. "Don't!" I hissed. But she'd already peeled back the curtain. At first she didn't say anything. Then her breathing changed, slow, shallow, uneven. She whispered, "Mel, there are people out there." The way she said people told me they weren't people. My mom reached out and yanked her away from the window. "Don't look at them." Lynn stumbled back. "They're just, I don't know, neighbors?" "They're standing in the street." "Standing?" I asked. "Not standing. More like," she swallowed. "Glitching." I felt ice crawl down my spine. I had to see. I didn't open the curtain. I just peeked through the side seam. At first the street looked normal except for the dome gray sky. Then I noticed the figures. Dozens of them. Barely visible, silhouettes with shoulders hunched and heads tilted at wrong angles, like they were listening to something deep underground. Their movements didn't match their steps, their arms twitched like puppet strings pulled too fast, their heads turned in increments instead of motions. And every few seconds their bodies shimmered. Like heat haze over asphalt. Except it was cold outside. One shape peeled itself from another, like two images misaligned. I realized the glitching wasn't the figures. It was space around them. Like reality was stuttering. My mom's voice trembled, "They're crossing over." "What does that mean?" Lynn asks. My mom didn't answer. Because someone was now walking toward our house. Not someone, something wearing someone. A tall man in work boots. Except he wasn't walking. His feet were dragging, but his body kept moving forward smoothly, like he was on invisible wheels. His face was blank. Not expressionless, blank, like someone had wiped the features off. I stepped away from the window. My mom whispered, "Melanie, get your keys. Your father says you need to run." Lynn's voice cracked. "Your father is dead." She shouldn't have said that. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. The glasses on the counter rattled. My mom let out a sound, a deep, guttural warning growl. And then her eyes rolled back white. Her body stiffened. She lifted her head like she was listening again, but not to anything human. Then she spoke with my father's voice again. "They are looking for you." 4. The first supplantation. The front door shook. Something thumped against it, gentle at first, like knuckles. Then harder. Then much harder. Lynn screamed. I grabbed her wrist and pulled her toward the hallway, but she jerked away. Her eyes were wide, wild. "No," she said, backing up. "No, I'm not going outside." "We are not going outside," I said. "We are getting to the basement." But she wasn't listening. Her face had changed, the muscles pulled too tight, her breaths too shallow. Her pupils dilated unnaturally fast. "Lynn?" I asked. She looked up at me sharply, and the expression she wore wasn't hers. "Something's wrong," she whispered, but her voice cracked halfway through, like someone else was trying to speak through her. Then she grabbed her own cheeks, fingers digging into her skin as if she was trying to hold something inside. She choked out, "Mel, help!" Her body jerked. Her spine arched. Her jaw snapped sideways with a sickening pop. And then Lynn was gone. What stood in front of me was wearing her face, but its smile was wrong, stretched too wide, trembling like it took effort to hold that shape. Its voice came out in a wet rasp. She was so easy. I stumbled back, but it moved too fast, faster than Lynn ever could, grabbing my wrist with bone-crushing strength. Behind me, my mom screamed in two voices at once. The thing wearing Lynn lunged. I shoved a lamp into its face and ran. 5. The escape. I sprinted toward the garage while my mom, or whatever part of my dad was clinging to her, kept the thing that used to be Lynn occupied. I could hear the two of them struggling, hear my mother's throat tear from sounds no human should make. I didn't look back. I grabbed my car keys from the hook. My hands shook so violently I dropped them twice. My phone buzzed with a single notification even though the network was dead. Unknown message received. Don't let them touch you. Dad. I almost dropped the phone too. I slammed the garage door button. Slow. Too slow. The motor groaned like it was dying. Something slammed into the interior door behind me. The hinges shrieked. I threw myself into the driver's seat. Fumbled the key. Turned it. The engine coughed twice before catching. The interior door burst open. Lynn, or the thing that had stolen Lynn, crawled through sideways, joints bending wrong, mouth split ear to ear. I floored it. The garage door hadn't opened fully yet. I ducked. The top of my windshield shattered as I scraped under it, glass raining over me. Behind the car, something screamed, human and not human layered over each other. I hit the road doing 70. 6. The motel. I don't remember most of the drive. I remember the dome gray sky stretching over the whole town. I remember figures lining the streets, standing, twitching, waiting. I remember my mom's voice screaming my name from inside her own house, and another voice layered beneath it that kept saying, "Run, bub. Run." I didn't stop until I reached the Redstone Motel 20 miles away. The clerk never even looked up when I checked in. I think he was asleep, or drunk, or maybe dead. I didn't check. I locked myself inside this room at 11:52 p.m. And ever since I got here, I've been writing this. I can still hear movement outside my window. Someone crying. Someone laughing. Someone calling my name. Mom didn't make it. Or maybe she did, but not in a way that means anything now. And Lynn. God. I'm so sorry. Whatever happened in that coal basin facility wasn't an explosion. It was an opening. A breach. And something slipped through. No. Not something. Many things. I don't know why they came. I don't know how long the town will last. But I know this. My father died 6 years ago. He loved me more than anything. And last night, he possessed my mother's body just long enough to save my life. I don't think he can hold on much longer. And if he lets go, I think I'm next. I'm going back to Glenwood tomorrow. I have to know what happened. I have to find him, whatever version of him is left. If you read this, stay awake tonight. If your dreams feel wrong, don't ignore them. I think this thing can spread. And I don't think Glenwood is the end. Segment 2. The day after the opening. I didn't sleep. I tried, around 4 a.m., when the sky outside the motel window turned from dome gray to the kind of washed-out blue you see before sunrise. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lynn's face snapping sideways, her jaw unhinging as something else pulled its way into her skull like a hand stuffing itself into a glove. Worse than that was hearing my father's voice coming from my mother's throat, cracked, trembling, desperately human in a way he hadn't been for 6 years. By 7 a.m., my eyes felt like sandpaper, and I knew that if I let myself drift off, even for 10 seconds, I would dream something I wouldn't come back from. The motel room had gone quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet where you're sure someone else is in the room with you but you can't see them yet. I kept typing. Typing was the only thing that proved I was still here. That the world outside Glenwood Springs hadn't already ended. 1. The silence. At first, I thought the entire motel had been evacuated. No footsteps. No cars. No housekeeping carts. Not even the clerk. I cracked the door open an inch. The hallway was empty, but not just empty, wrong. The lights buzzed in a strange, fluttering pattern, too slow for flickering, too fast for malfunction. One down the hall pulsed like a heartbeat. I shut the door again. My phone was still dead, except for the single impossible message from Dad last night, which I hadn't dared open again. The timestamp read 9:27 p.m., about a minute before Lynn changed. I kept checking for updates, but the network bars stayed crossed out. The TV was static. The radio was static. The motel phone had no dial tone. Only my laptop worked, running off its own battery. At 7:53 a.m., the motel building creaked so violently that the picture above the bed, a watercolor of wild horses, fell off the wall and landed face down on the carpet. That was the moment I realized. The silence wasn't natural. It was being kept that way. Something outside didn't want noise. Didn't want attention. Didn't want witnesses. And then, everything changed at once. 2. The voice through the vent. I heard breathing inside the room. Not heavy. Not monstrous. Just human. Soft. Present. Coming from somewhere above me. I looked up at the ceiling vent. A chill crept down my arms. Melanie. A whisper. Gravelly. Urgent. Not my father's voice. Someone else. Don't react, the whisper said. Don't move toward the window. They stay near the glass. My throat tightened. Who are you? I whispered back. Someone trying to keep you alive. A pause. Static-like breath. You left Glenwood last night. You encountered a supplant event. We saw the grid spike. Grid? Are you with the government? I asked, though the real question was, are you with the thing that caused all this? No, he said. But I work with them. Then he added, reluctantly. Worked. My pulse hammered. What do you want from me? Not want, he said. Need. I need you to stay exactly where you are. Do not answer the door. Do not leave the room. And whatever you do, Melanie, do not fall asleep. That last part made my stomach twist. Why? I asked. His whisper was almost inaudible. They can cross into dreams. A shiver ran down my spine. Who can? The shadows, he said. The ones that came through the breach. Then who are you? A long pause. Finally. My name is Eldridge. I used to be with the EDD. The Extraliminal Defense Department. The name I'd only heard once in my life, from an old friend of my dad's who had laughed it off as a spook agency chasing ghosts. But ghosts were real. They had bodies now. And one of them tried to peel Lynn open last night. I backed away from the vent. If you EDD, then what happened? I whispered. What did you all do? His answer wasn't defensive or rehearsed. It was tired. Broken. We made a mistake. 3. The things at the window. Something bumped against the window. Soft at first. Like fingers brushing the glass. I froze. Eldridge's voice sharpened, Melanie, don't look. My eyes stayed fixed on the vent, but I heard it, a soft, dragging sound, like someone sliding their cheek across the window pane. Then a faint, muffled giggle. Lynn's giggle. My breath caught in my chest. Eldridge whispered, "They mimic the last emotion of the host. It's not her. It's never them." Another giggle. Higher. Wrong. I clamped both hands over my mouth to keep quiet. "Melanie," Eldridge whispered, "I need you to answer something honestly. Did any of them touch you last night?" "No," I whispered. "I mean, Lynn grabbed me, but she wasn't." "That wasn't Lynn," he said sharply. "Did the entity make full skin contact?" "Yes. She grabbed my wrist." Silence. I heard him swallow through the vent. "Okay," he said at last. "Okay. Listen to me very carefully. You need to check something." "What?" "Look at your wrist. The one it touched." I lifted my arm slowly. And froze. A pattern of faint black threads, like hairline veins, spread outward from a single point on my wrist. They weren't bruises. They weren't scratches. They were growing. Expanding. Shifting under the skin like ink in water. "Oh God," I gasped. "Don't panic," Eldridge whispered, though he didn't sound confident. "It's not possession. Not yet. It's a residue. A tether." "A tether to what?" "To the entity that tried to claim you." My stomach twisted. Lynn's shadow still had a hold on me. "How do I get rid of it?" I whispered. "You don't," he said. "Not alone." I pressed my back against the wall, staring at the swarming lines in my wrist. "Then what do I do?" There was a beat of hesitation. "Meet me," he said. "I'm close. But before I can get to you, you need to break the visual link." "What does that mean?" "Don't let them see you see them." A new sound came from outside the window. A scraping. Then a faint tapping. Like fingernails. Tap. Tap. Tap tap tap. "Melanie. Bob. Let me in." My blood ran cold. That was my mother's voice. Eldridge whispered sharply, a move away from the glass. "Now." I crawled to the opposite corner of the room, shaking. Outside, something dragged itself along the wall, nails screeching like metal on concrete. Then a new sound. Two voices overlapping perfectly, one screaming, one laughing. Lynn. My mother. They were together. And they were looking for me. 4. The warning. The vent hissed softly, like Eldridge had shifted positions. "I'm coming to you," he said. "But I need you to understand something first." I hugged my knees, shaking. "Understand what?" "The EDD facility in Coal Basin wasn't supposed to be active last night," he said. "It was running solo, without the other 4 sites syncing the field." "Field?" I whispered. "What field?" "The liminal barrier," he said. "The boundary between the living and the dead. When a human dies with unresolved emotional trauma, they leave a rut, a scar in the liminal layer. Most fade quickly. Some don't." "Shadows," I breathed. "Yes," he said. The Coal Basin facility was studying controlled interaction with those ruts. But Axiom pushed the schedule. Axiom? The private contractor that took over EDD operations in the 90s. I felt my breath shorten. Dad had worked government contracts in the 90s. He'd died of a stroke, but he'd always felt scared of something before he went. "What did Axiom do?" I whispered. "They forced the facility to run independently," Eldridge said. "They wanted a faster breach. A bigger window. But without the synchronizers at the other sites, the system lost containment." My pulse quickened. "And that opened a gateway," I said. "No," he whispered. "It tore it." A chill swept down my back. "Why Glenwood?" I asked. "Because that's where the facility was," he said. "Underground. built directly beneath the old mine tunnels. Almost no one in town knew. What about the shadows? I whispered. Why are they violent? Another long pause. Shadows aren't people, he said quietly. They're what's left when everything human breaks off. They're emotion detritus, pain without memory, rage without reason, sorrow without context. But my father, I began. That's different, Eldridge said quickly. Some shadows anchor themselves to love, or regret, or a single positive tether. They are rare. Very rare. I closed my eyes. Like my father. Yes, he said. Your father is an anomaly, a positive shadow capable of limited supplantation without destroying the host. And Lynn? I whispered. Her shadow was negative, he said. Overloaded. Whatever took her wasn't human, and it wasn't your friend. Tears stung my eyes. What do they want? They want bodies, he whispered. And after last night, there are thousands of them free. A sharp thud hit the window. Then a smear slid downward, like someone had pressed their face against the glass and dragged it slowly. I clutched my laptop like a shield. Eldridge, I whispered. I need to get out of here. You will, he said. But you have to wait for me. Something outside let out a low, guttural moan, two voices layered and glitching. I covered my ears. When? I asked. He hesitated. Then? 30 minutes. Don't look outside. Don't sleep. Don't answer the door. The vent went silent. And then someone knocked. 5. The knocking. 3 sharp knocks. Not frantic. Not monstrous. Just polite. Melanie? This is the sheriff's department. We understand you checked in around midnight. We need to ask a few questions. Please open the door. My breath caught. Eldridge had said not to open it. But the voice sounded normal. Human. We know survivors are confused, but your safety is our priority. Please open the door. I didn't move. The tapping on the window stopped. Instantly. Like the thing outside was listening. A shadow under the door shifted, faintly, almost imperceptibly. Melanie, the voice said again. Then, in a lower tone. We know you're alone in there. No sheriff would say that. I whispered, barely audible, go away. The voice responded, but its inflection changed. Flattened. Monotone. Open the door. No. Open the door. No. The voice dropped half an octave. Bub, open the door. My father's voice. Perfectly. My blood turned to ice. I backed away from the door until my shoulders hit the far wall. The shadow under the door twitched, then split, like fingers spreading. The handle turned. Once. Twice. Then violently. I squeezed my eyes shut. Eldridge, I whispered. Please hurry. Outside, the handle rattled like something was trying to rip it off. Then the door vibrated as if struck by a shoulder, or a head. Then everything stopped. Silence again. Except now the silence felt hungry. 6. The decision. The vent crackled softly. Melanie, Eldridge whispered. I'm outside. You have 60 seconds. Grab your bag and come out fast. Do not look at anything that looks like someone you know. I swallowed hard. Will I be safe with you? No, he said. But safer than in there. I grabbed my keys, my laptop, my backpack. My wrist burned where the shadow touch residue spread under the skin, darker now, pulsing faintly. I opened the door. For a moment, the hallway looked normal. Then, at the far end, a figure stood facing the wrong direction, head tilted, arms slack. Waiting. I stepped into the hole anyway. Behind me, the motel door eased itself closed, catching on the latch twice before shutting fully. The figure at the end of the corridor twitched, like a glitch in a video. I didn't breathe. A man stepped out of the stairwell. Tall. Exhausted looking. Plain clothes. Badge clipped to his belt with a logo I didn't recognize, a hexagon with a hollow center. Eldridge. Move, he whispered. Don't run. Just move. I walked. The figure at the end of the hallway slowly lifted its head as if catching my scent. Eldridge grabbed my arm, the untouched one, and whispered, "Welcome to the part they never planned for." We stepped into the stairwell. And the door slammed behind us with a sound that didn't belong in this world. Segment 3, The Things That Remember You. I'm going to keep writing, even though I can't stop glancing at the thin strip of darkness between the door and the carpet like something might flatten itself and slide under. It hasn't happened, not yet, but after what I saw tonight, I don't trust the rules of physics to hold themselves together anymore. I promised I'd continue the story, and maybe that's all I have left, the typing, the recounting, the desperate attempt to make sense of something that doesn't fit into anything I ever believed about death, or memory, or my parents. So here it is, segment 3, what happened after I left my house and what I now understand those things truly are. But let me warn you. This part hurts. It hurts to remember. And it hurts worse to understand. I didn't make it straight to the motel. Most of the drive is a blur, but some moments carve themselves into my memory with a precision that feels inhuman, as if I wasn't remembering them but re-experiencing them in the order the shadows wanted. The car's headlights kept flickering. Not off, just down, like something heavy leaned over them and blocked the beams. Once, the dashboard lit up with a warning I'd never seen before. System malfunction, liminal overflow. I still don't know if that was real or if the shadows found a way to speak through the electronics in my mother's Subaru. But the strangest part happened maybe 3 minutes after I left the driveway. I was on County Road 134, the one that winds down toward the river. Empty. Pitch black. No street lamps. And then, someone ran across the road. Not walked. Not stumbled. Ran, full sprint, like prey breaking from the bushes. A woman, I think, or something shaped like one. Her clothes were torn to ribbons. Her arms pumped violently. But what I remember most is her hair, black and whipping behind her like it was underwater. I slammed the brakes. The Subaru skidded, fishtailed, finally stopped sideways in the road. I waited for the woman to appear on the shoulder. She didn't. I rolled down the window a few inches and listened. Nothing. Not crickets. Not wind. Just the humming static I'd heard earlier inside the house when the shadows slipped through the cracks of reality. Then a voice, faint, wrong, dragging every syllable like it was attached to a hook. Mel, Annie. Not my mother's voice. Not Lynn. Not my father either. I don't know how I knew this, but the voice was calling me the way a child calls a stray cat, coaxing, gentle, but with the giddy anticipation of something cruel behind it. I didn't check the mirrors. I didn't look behind me. I floored it. Somewhere near the Glenwood hot springs, I saw the first supplanted up close. There were 3 of them. A man and 2 teenagers. They stood in the parking lot, perfectly still, facing nothing, or facing something that wasn't there. Their postures were human, but their expressions weren't. Their jaws were slack, eyes open too wide, like they'd forgotten how to blink. I slowed because one of the girls stepped into the center of the road. She lifted her hand toward me, fingers splayed. Not waving. Reaching. The boy beside her lifted his head and screamed without sound, mouth stretching into a black oval. And then, at the edges of their shadows, the actual shadows cast by the streetlights, the blackness started moving. Slow ripples, like ink swirling in water. Like something behind the shadows was swelling up to fit inside them. I swerved around them and didn't look back. But the incident wasn't limited to Glenwood streets. It was spreading outward. About a mile outside town, I passed a cluster of cars abandoned in the middle of the road. The doors were open. Headlights on. Radios playing static. One car idled, engine knocking like someone had shoved something into it. I didn't stop. When I finally reached the Redstone Motel, this decrepit little place off Highway 82, the lobby lights were off. The night clerk was gone. The keys were still hanging behind the counter. I took room 12. I'm writing from that room right now. But the real part of this segment, what I have to tell you, happened after I barricaded the door and sat on the edge of the bed with my knees pulled up, staring at the wall and trying to breathe. I thought I had escaped. I hadn't. The shadows don't follow you. They remember you. I was trying to calm down, repeating the one thought that kept me functional: Dad saved me. Dad saved me. Dad saved me. Then my phone buzzed. I almost threw it. Who the hell would be calling me? The cell towers were down. Everything was down. The caller ID said, "Unknown, routing failure." I shouldn't have answered. But my dad had spoken through my mother's throat. The rules of communication didn't matter anymore. So I picked up and whispered, "Dad?" No one spoke at first. Then the line shifted, crackled, like someone pressing their mouth too close to the microphone. "Mel?" Not my father's voice. Not even close. But it knew his cadence. It borrowed the rhythm. "Who is this?" I asked. Silence. Then, faintly, "I remember your house." My stomach clenched. I stayed very still. Static hummed like insects chewing through wires. "I remember the bed," the voice said, soft and sliding. "I remember the girl there." I nearly dropped the phone. My heart hammered so loudly the mattress springs vibrated. The girl. Lynn. They remembered Lynn. Which meant they remembered me. "Stop calling me," I hissed. "Leave me alone." The voice didn't respond directly. Instead, it let out a slow, breathy imitation of a laugh. Then, "We don't call. We answer." The line clicked off. I made a decision then, the first real decision I'd made since the chaos began. I needed to know what these things wanted. And more importantly, why they cared about me at all. Because so far, everything pointed to Glenwood being random, an accident of bureaucracy, a facility going offline without backup. A cosmic mistake. But the shadows weren't random. They were deliberate. Organized. And somehow they had a hierarchy. A structure. Something like memory at its core. And memory meant intention. It was around midnight when I understood something else. The shadows aren't just the dead. They're the dead with something unresolved. My father had called it the rut once when he and Mom were arguing, something about emotional grooves, the way trauma shapes you. He'd said it while yelling. Mom had cried. I'd never thought about it again. But now those words kept echoing. When emotion is strong enough, it leaves grooves deeper than a brain. Is that why they came back? Not as spirits, but as the leftover shape of a human's deepest pain? I don't know. I just know that tonight, after that phone call, the air in the motel room went freezing. My fingertips stiffened. I could see my breath. Something brushed the wall. Not scraped. Not tapped. Brushed. Like a palm sliding down the wallpaper. I pulled my legs closer to my chest. I grabbed one of the motel pillows and held it like a shield. The brushing sound stopped. Then someone whispered through the vent above the bed. Melanie. Not crawling. Not echoing. Whispered like someone kneeling beside me. I covered my ears, but it didn't help, the voice was coming from inside my head. Come back. I shook my whole body, trying to make the voice shake out too. Come home. Except it wasn't my home anymore. it wasn't anything anymore. Where this gets worse, and why I'm posting all this, is that I'm starting to understand something horrifyingly simple. The shadows don't want to kill us. Most of them don't. They want to replace us. To inhabit us. To live through us. They want to feel the emotions that shape them, anger, sadness, despair, inside her body again. That's why Lynn attacked me. Not because she hated me. But because whatever got into her hated someone, or something, and it needed a body strong enough to reenact that feeling. These shadows don't think like ghosts. They think like wounds. Wounds that were never allowed to heal. Wounds that found a doorway. And the worst part? My father, whatever fragment of him remained, came through the same doorway. He was different, yes. Softer. Protective. But he was still a shadow. Still something that stepped across the border between existence and whatever's after. Which means something is wrong on the other side too. Something pushed them all out. Something bigger. Something that causes even the dead to flee. Before I end this segment, there's one more thing I haven't written yet, because I've been trying not to believe it. When I got here, when I locked myself inside this motel room and started writing segment 1, I checked the bathroom mirror. At first I didn't see anything strange. But then, just behind my left shoulder, just for a fraction of a second, I saw a second version of myself. Same clothes. Same hair. Same terrified expression. Except her eyes were black. Not glossy black. Not pupil black. Void black. Like something behind them was looking out, not in. She smiled. I turned around. Nothing was there. But the reflection wasn't gone. She stayed there in the mirror for a full second longer before fading out like someone pulling a vacuum over spilled ink. I haven't looked in the mirror since. And I don't think I will again. I'm ending segment 3 here. If you're reading this, if any of this even uploads, I'll write segment 4 after I rest. Or after the shadows stop pressing against the door. Or after I stop shaking long enough to type. Whatever's happening in Glenwood. It's not over. It's not contained. It's not local. It remembers us. All of us. And it's coming. Part 2, Segment 1. The man from the Extraliminal Defense Department. I didn't sleep. I don't mean I slept badly or fitfully, I mean I never crossed over. My body lay down. My eyes closed. But my mind stayed painfully, sickeningly awake for 9 straight hours, trapped in that vibrating twilight state before dreams. The shadows wanted me unconscious. I could feel it, an ache behind the eyes, like fingers pressing from inside my skull. Every time I drifted, something tugged at the back of my thoughts. Something cold. Something hungry. Something that knew I was reachable only if I let go of consciousness long enough to dream. So I didn't. And that's why I was awake at 7:14 a.m. when someone knocked on my motel room door. Not pounding. Not clawing. A normal knock. Calm. 3 taps. But I still froze. Knocks don't mean people anymore. Knocks mean memory. Knocks mean attention. Knocks mean desire. The shadows don't need to touch the door to get in. They can seep through vents, through cracks, through the space between the mirror and your reflection. But tapping? Tapping means they want you to open it. I stayed perfectly still at the desk chair, hands hovering over the keyboard. The knock came again. Then a man's voice. Ms. Callas? Please open the door. I'm with the EDD. I didn't move. He waited a few seconds, then said, with a tired politeness that didn't match the apocalypse outside. The Extraliminal Defense Department. I believe you've had an eventful night. A government agent, I thought. Finally. A rescue. A lifeline. A sane person. But another part of me, The part that had watched Lynn's body jerk around like a puppet and my mother speak in my dead father's voice, whispered. Or maybe the shadows learned how to impersonate people now. Slide your ID under the door, I said. He did. I reached down, grabbed it by the corner, and inspected it without opening more than an inch. It wasn't a driver's license. Or a federal badge. Or anything recognizable. But the card was warm. Not body temperature warm, machine warm. Like it had been running code. It read. EDDR, for clearance. Agent Eldridge J. Marrow. Active memory license. Active memory license. Memory. My chest tightened. What do you want? I asked. To help you, he said. And to prevent this from spreading further. The word spreading landed like a hammer. Because even in my panic, even after everything, a part of me had been praying this was something contained, something limited to Glenwood and that single cursed night. Something survivable. But the way he said it, quiet, weighted, resigned, told me the truth. It wasn't contained. Unlatched the chain. The door opened. And I saw the man who would change everything I thought I understood about what was happening. He looked like the kind of man who had spent his entire life apologizing for things he didn't personally do. Early 40s. Shaved face. Neutral clothes. A tie slightly askew, like he hadn't slept either. A white badge clipped to his jacket. But the most important detail was his eyes. Normal. Not black. Not glowing. Not flickering. Just tired brown. He slipped inside quickly and shut the door behind him like he expected something to snatch him from the hallway. Up close, he smelled faintly of soda and old coffee. Miss Callis, he said, offering a soft, careful nod. I'm Eldridge. You can call me ELD. I didn't take his hand. He didn't seem offended. Your facility, I began, my voice cracking. The incident, Glenwood. Yes, he said firmly. I know. And I'm sorry. He sounded like he meant it. He also sounded like someone who needed me alive more than he needed me comforted. He sat at the small table and gestured for me to sit. I'd prefer if you stayed away from the window, he added. I didn't ask why. I'd spent the whole night watching something invisible drag its fingers down the glass. I sat across from him, arms folded. You were there, I said. You saw it happen. No, ELD said. But I was briefed within 4 minutes of the breach. Breach. Like this was a prison escape. Then tell me, I said. Tell me what those things are. He inhaled, a deep, steadying breath. Not dramatic, not showy. Just a man preparing to speak a truth that would change someone forever. Miss Callis, he said, the dead don't rest the way you think they do. I didn't speak. He continued. There is an afterlife. In a manner of speaking. Not a realm, not a heaven or hell. More like, the underside of consciousness. I frowned. That means nothing. I know, he said. Let me try again. He picked up a pen from the motel desk. Imagine human emotion as grooves in the mind, he said. The deeper the emotion, the deeper the groove. Most people die with shallow grooves. Their consciousness dissolves. Peacefully. He paused. But when someone dies with intense emotional residue, prolonged grief, rage, obsession, trauma, the groove doesn't dissolve. It holds shape. He tapped the pen on the table. That shape lingers. Like a rut in the dirt. My stomach twisted. Are you saying shadows are emotional leftovers? The technical term is extra-dimensional ruts, he said. But yes. In practical terms, shadows are memories that survived their bodies. Memories. The word hit harder than I expected. My father warned me, I whispered. He used my mother like a vessel. Eldridge's expression softened. Yes. That can happen. Especially with ruts tied to protective instincts or guilt. My eyes burned. Dad. Dad wasn't a hallucination. He wasn't a trick. He was real, just not whole. But if my father could come through, I said, why did those things come through too? This time Eldridge didn't answer immediately. Because he was choosing his words. Because the truth was worse. Finally, the Glenwood facility was never meant to operate alone. What does that mean? There are 5 containment stations. Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, and Arizona. They maintain a synchronized pressure net, like fingers pressing down on a balloon to keep it from expanding. And the Colorado facility stopped? His jaw tightened. It was taken offline. Unexpectedly. Without authorization. By who? He didn't answer. But I saw it in his face. He knew. He hated that he knew. And he hated even more that he couldn't tell me. What happens when one station goes dark? I asked. Pressure builds, he said. Every rut, every memory, every fragment of the dead cord in that pressure escapes. A cold wave rolled through me. And they look for bodies, I whispered. Correct? To supplant. Eldridge nodded grimly. Human bodies are stable structures. Designed for consciousness. And the ruts, the shadows, they latch onto anything that vaguely resembles the emotion that formed them. That's why some become violent. Some become hysterical. Some cling to the nearest familiar memory. He didn't have to say it. I already knew. Some shadows try to go home. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Ms. Callis, thousands of emotional ruts surged upward when our net collapsed. Too many for our teams to handle. Too many for containment measures. I stared at him. Swallowed hard. Are you saying Glenwood Springs is gone? His mouth pressed into a line. We've declared it a lost zone. That was worse than saying yes. Lost zone didn't mean destroyed. It meant surrendered. No rescue? I whispered. No attempt to help. We don't have the manpower, ELD said, sounding genuinely pained. Or the authority. The entity controlling the program. He stopped. Regrouped. Chose a safer sentence. The entity prioritizes national secrecy. Not recovery. Entity. Not agency. Not department. Entity. Something private. Something corporate. I remembered the man in the ID line at the DMV once telling me, government agencies don't pay for new hardware. Corporations do. My blood chilled. ELD, I said slowly. Who really runs the EDD? He didn't answer. Not exactly. But he looked down at his hands, shook his head once, and said, not the people you elected. He changed tone then, quieter, but heavier. Ms. Callis, your mother. I flinched. Please don't. I have to tell you, he said softly. Your mother collapsed shortly after the shadow using her withdrew. Collapsed. Not died. Collapsed. But the way his voice trembled on the word. I covered my face with both hands. My mother. Gone. And her last act, or the last act of her body, was letting my father's shadow try to save me. Eldridge waited in respectful silence. He didn't touch me. Didn't console me. Just sat with the grief like someone who'd sat with many grieving people before. That was almost worse than sympathy. It meant he'd seen this exact pain, again and again, all morning. How many died? I finally whispered. Dozens, he said. Hundreds supplanted. More unaccounted for. I stared at him. Doesn't the government care? He laughed bitterly. The government doesn't even understand what we do. They just sign budgets and pretend it's classified physics. So then who cares? I asked. He met my eyes. You do. And I do. But the people above us, he exhaled, care about results, not lives. I realized he wasn't here by protocol. He wasn't debriefing me. He was warning me. Why tell me all this? I asked. Because someone needs to, he said. And because you're not infected. You weren't supplanted. How do you know? You're lucid, he said. You're anchored. And he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black container, about the size of a contact lens case. He opened it. Inside were two thin lenses, faintly shimmering with a greenish sheen. I need you to put these on. I recoiled. No. They let you see them, he said. The ruts. The shadows. Their tether points. Their density. Their hunger. I shook my head harder. I don't want to see any more. You going back, he said quietly. My heart slammed against my ribs. What? You're the only unhaunted survivor with first-hand exposure, ELD said. The higher-ups will contain you eventually if I don't help you now. You have a choice, to go with them blind, or go with some control. I stared at the contact lenses. They shimmered. Not with reflected light. With movement. Like tiny currents of dark fluid swirling inside the material. You want me to return to Glenwood Springs, I said. Yes. Are you insane? No. Just realistic. I felt dizzy. I barely made it out last night. And now you know more than anyone else alive, ELD said. Your perspective has value. Your survival proves something. Proves what? That the shadows pay attention to you. My stomach plummeted. That makes you important, he said softly. It also makes you dangerous to the people running the program. I looked down at my shaking hands. What happens if I refuse? He didn't answer immediately. At last. They'll take you anyway. A cold wave spread down my spine. Why? I whispered. Because, ELD said, you're the first UN-supplanted human a positive shadow has attempted to protect. He let the words sink in. A positive shadow, I repeated. You mean my father? Yes, ELD said. And they need him. That broke something in me. They can't use him. They will, ELD said. If they find him. He leaned closer. So you need to find him first. That was when I made the decision that would damn me. I took the contact lenses. My hands were trembling so badly I nearly dropped them. When? I whispered. Eldridge stood. Now. Before containment teams seal the roads fully. I swallowed. What about you? Aren't you coming? He hesitated, and something passed across his face, something exhausted and resigned. I'm supposed to escort you, he said. But I'm also supposed to report you. And you not doing that? No, he said. Because I believe you deserve a chance to understand what happened. And because your story might be the only hope the rest of us have left. He opened the door halfway, checking the hallway, then turned back to me. Melanie, once you go back into Glenwood Springs, nothing in your life will make sense ever again. I laughed. A hollow, broken sound. Nothing makes sense already. He nodded. Then let's go. Segment 2. I don't know how long I was standing in that doorway, staring into that dark room where Eldridge insisted I rest, before he spoke again. Mel, he said. You're dissociating. Sit down. He wasn't wrong. My body felt like it was half a second delayed from everything I did. Like decisions were made one beat before my limbs realized it. I sat on the bed because resisting felt pointless. The hum behind the walls pulsed once, low, seismic, like the building exhaled. Eldridge closed the door behind him. Then he locked it. Not a loud, obvious lock. A soft internal latch. Like the room sealed itself. I didn't comment. I didn't even flinch. I think a part of me had already accepted that my world was now a set of rooms I was never meant to enter, and I was surviving only because no one realized they'd left the door ajar. Eldridge sat at the edge of the bed, posture knife straight. "I need to ask you something," he said. "And I need you to take a moment before answering. If you respond too quickly, I'll assume conditioning has already set in." Conditioning. Like I was being trained. Like something had gotten into me. I swallowed. "Okay." He watched me for 10 full seconds, counted, deliberate, before speaking. "What was the first moment," he asked, "that Glenwood felt wrong to you?" I didn't understand why he asked it that way. Not when something happened. Not when you first saw the children. But when it felt wrong. I told him the truth. It wasn't the kids. It wasn't even the silence. It was the deer. The one staring through my window the first morning. It didn't blink. Eldridge shut his eyes like he expected that answer and hated that he was right. "That means the boundary was already compromised," he murmured. "Much earlier than I thought." "What boundary?" But he didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and spoke in the lowest voice he'd used yet, like the walls themselves might listen. "Mel, the thing you saw in Glenwood isn't limited to Glenwood. The entities, don't stay in one place. They anchor to perception. If someone witnesses them directly, that person becomes what we call a vector. A carrier. Not infected, this isn't biological. But you become a point of access. A door. A crack in the surface of reality that they can widen." I stared at him. "You're saying I'm haunted?" "I'm saying you're observable." He must have seen the horror in my face because he added quickly. "You're not dangerous." "Not yet. But the more you recall, the more you describe, the more you replay those moments." He tapped the side of his temple. "The more traction they get. That's why I haven't allowed you to give a full debrief." I blinked. "I haven't told you anything." "Yes," he said. "Exactly." Then he stood, paced once, and pressed his palm lightly against the wall. The hum in the room quieted a little, like the entire safe house was reacting to him. "We have shielding here," he explained. "Enough to keep your thoughts from broadcasting unintentionally. But outside? If you remember too vividly, or speak about them with too much emotional clarity, they'll hear you." That made zero sense. That made horrible, intuitive sense. Because the more I wrote this post, the more I described Glenwood, the louder the motel walls felt like they were breathing. I rubbed my arms hard, trying to shake off goosebumps. "Okay," I said. "Then what am I supposed to do? How do I stop something that can hear my thoughts?" "You don't stop them," Eldridge said. "You don't engage. You don't picture them. You don't call them up in your memory any more than absolutely necessary. The only way to close the perceptual channel is to stabilize your sense of reality. Your selfhood. Your internal map." That sounded like therapy talk. Not government conspiracy talk. But Eldridge didn't speak like a cult leader or a doctor. He spoke like a man holding a fragile, lethal truth with both hands and praying he didn't drop it. He reached into his coat and slid something onto the bed beside me. A small, bone-white object. Smooth. Cool. Perfectly oval. It looked like a river stone carved out of polished ivory. "What is it?" I asked. "Hold it." I hesitated. "Mel," he said. "Please." So I picked it up. The moment my fingers closed around it, the room snapped into focus. I don't know how else to describe it. Colors sharpened. The pressure behind my eyes lifted. The sense that something was pacing just outside the edge of my vision, gone. the tension I'd been carrying since Glenwood slid off me so suddenly I gasped. What is this? An anchor, Eldridge said. A psychometric stabilizer. When you hold it, your mind becomes less porous, less receptive to external interference. It felt safe. It felt real. It felt like standing on solid ground after days of slipping on ice. But that meant something else. You knew this would work on me, I said slowly. Which means you knew I was already compromised. Eldridge didn't meet my eyes. You were compromised the moment you stepped past the boundary. I squeezed the anchor until my knuckles whitened. So what now? I asked. You debrief me? Lock me up? Interrogate me until you figure out whether I'm a threat? Eldridge shook his head immediately, too immediately. No, Mel. You're not a prisoner. You're a witness. And you're the only civilian who's ever left Glenwood alive. That means something unprecedented happened in there. Something that allowed escape. Something we don't understand yet. I laughed bitterly. Lucky me. He stopped pacing and knelt in front of me. Mel, he said softly, I need you to be honest. When you were in Glenwood, did anything speak to you? The room seemed to freeze. Not physically, but psychologically. As if the air didn't want me to answer. I thought of the children. Their hands. Their eyes. Their voices whispering like wind through dead leaves. I remember you. But I said nothing. Eldridge waited. Then he placed a hand on my shoulder, lightly, carefully. If they initiated contact, he said, I need to prepare additional containment. Not for you. For them. Because if they spoke to you first, if they recognized you, then part of the boundary collapse might be originating from your side. I don't understand. You don't have to. You just have to trust me. I stood abruptly. I don't trust anyone right now. Fair, he said. But we don't have time for trust. We have time for action. He took the anchor from my hand, turned it over once, and pressed it back into my palm. I need you to keep this with you at all times. Even when you sleep. I swallowed. Why? What happens if I drop it? You'll dream, Eldridge said. And they'll hear it. I didn't breathe for a full 5 seconds. Okay, I whispered. So what's next? We stabilize you, he said. We rebuild your cognitive baseline. Once your mind stops bleeding into the perceptual field, we'll start mapping your memories of Glenwood, carefully. Controlled. Piece by piece. He walked to the door. Get some rest. I'll bring food. Eldridge? He stopped. Yes? If I'm a vector, I said quietly, why didn't you sedate me the second I got here? Why take the risk? He hesitated. Then he answered. Because the entities don't open doors for just anyone. He looked almost sorry. Something chose you. And we need to understand why. He stepped out. The door locked itself behind him. The anchor throbbed faintly in my palm, pulse-like, warm, alive. And for the first time since Glenwood, I wasn't sure the part of me that left that town was entirely human. Segment 3. The door clicked shut behind Eldridge, and I stood there gripping that ivory-white anchor so tightly my hand hurt. I waited for the hum in the walls to settle. It didn't. Instead, it felt like the building was thinking. Not moving. Not breathing. Thinking. I paced the perimeter of the small room, mapping the edges like an animal checking the limits of a cage. There were no windows. Only a dim vent, a bed bolted to the floor, a metal chair, and a single overhead fixture that flickered like it was losing an argument with itself. The hum under the floorboards grew louder when I approached the vent. I backed away fast. For a moment, I thought about banging on the door. Yelling. Asking Eldridge to come back and explain what exactly he meant by they'll hear your dreams. But I didn't. because admitting I was scared felt like giving something permission. I sat on the bed, anchor in my lap. I don't know how long I stayed like that. At some point, the hum beneath the floor shifted to a slow, rhythmic throb. Like a heartbeat, but mechanical. Synthetic. Like the safe house wasn't a place. It was a machine. And I was inside it. Then the lights cut out. Not flickered. Not dimmed. Gone. I froze. In the pitch-black room, the hum stopped too. Everything went dead silent, as if a huge switch was thrown somewhere deep underground. Eldridge? I whispered. Silence. I reached for the lamp beside the bed. But my hand touched nothing. The lamp wasn't there anymore. I reached again, sweeping the air. Still nothing. My breath caught. The room was rearranging. I stood up, anchor clenched in one fist. Eldridge! I shouted this time. No answer. No footsteps. No mechanical whir of security doors or emergency lights. Just darkness. Then, a soft knock. Not from the door. From the wall directly behind my head. I spun so fast I nearly tripped. Another knock. Louder. A third, so hard the wall trembled. My pulse hammered in my throat. Who's there? I managed. This time the reply wasn't a knock. It was a whisper. Open it. The voice was small. Childlike. Familiar in a way I didn't want to analyze. I backed toward the door. No, I whispered. No. Leave me alone. The voice drifted through the wall like it was leaking through the concrete. Mel, you left us. My stomach dropped. It wasn't one child's voice. It was many. Layered. Overlapping like a choir. You promised you'd stay. I didn't. The anchor suddenly grew warm in my palm. Not just warm, hot. Like it was burning. My vision swam, and shapes rose around me in the dark, faint outlines, thin, tall figures standing in silence, too close, like they'd been there all along waiting for the lights to die. The shadows stood between me and the door. I took a shaky step backward. They moved with me. Perfectly in sync. Then one leaned its head in my direction. The outline rippled like mist. Take your hand off it, it whispered. Let us see you. The anchor pulsed. My mind cleared for half a second, like surfacing from underwater. That second saved me. I sprinted. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I ran straight through the darkness, arms out, praying to hit the door and not one of the impossible shapes flanking me. My palms slammed into cold metal. I clawed for the handle. And the whole room jolted with a magnetic snap as the lights roared back on. The figures vanished. The hum returned. Air flooded back into my lungs all at once. I wrenched the door open and stumbled into the hallway. Eldridge was there. Standing perfectly still. Not out of shock. Out of calculation. His eyes darted to the anchor in my hand. What happened? He asked sharply. You tell me. I shouted. The lights went out, the room shifted, and there were voices in the wall, and something told me to drop this thing. Eldridge's jaw tightened. Did you drop it? No. Did you listen to anything they said? No. Did you answer them? Eldridge, what the hell is going on? He exhaled shakily, which terrified me more than everything that just happened. Then we're still okay, he said. We're still in control. He put a hand on the wall. The hum behind it lowered, as if responding to him. The blackout wasn't supposed to reach this level, he muttered. The shielding flickered. Shielding from what? He gave me a long look. You already know. I shook my head. No. No, I don't. Glenwood happened to me. It did things to me. But you're making it sound like there's a bigger pattern here. Like I'm part of something I didn't choose. Not part, Eldridge corrected softly. Target. I went cold. He motioned for me to follow him down the hall. We're moving to a reinforced wing. The safe house runs on multiple layers of containment. The one you were in was baseline level 1. It's meant to suppress minor bleed, not full contact. I grabbed his sleeve. Full contact with what? He stopped. You know, he said again, that what you saw in Glenwood wasn't human. I didn't answer. He continued. But what you don't know is that what's in Glenwood isn't local. It's not even anchored to geography. Glenwood is just one of the thin places. One point where perception and intrusion intersect. He opened a reinforced steel door. This whole facility exists because of places like that. I stepped inside. It wasn't another sparse room. It was a massive chamber filled with machinery, towering pillars of black metal, coils, screens showing brainwave readouts, swirling interference patterns, and something like seismic maps except the waves weren't geological. A few people, Eldridge said, can slip between layers. Without meaning to. Without training. But some people? Some people can be seen. I swallowed. And I'm one of those people. He nodded once. You're a focal point. A cognitive beacon. Something about your perceptual architecture draws attention. They see you because you see them. No, I whispered. No, I didn't choose any of this. You didn't, he agreed. But you survived Glenwood. That means you can survive this. And more importantly, he turned to a console and began typing rapidly. It means you might be able to show us how they think. I stared at him. You want me to go back? Eldridge didn't deny it. We're not there yet, he said. First, we stabilize you. Then we recover memories, slowly, without triggering perception bleed. Then we test your cognitive signature for vulnerabilities. My what? He pointed at a monitor showing a shifting web-like pattern. That's your mind right now. It looked fractured, jagged, like a broken spiderweb floating in static. That, Eldridge said, is why they can hear you. I backed away from the screen. I want to leave, I said. I want to go home. You don't have a home anymore, Mel, he said gently. Not until we fix this. I hated that the anchor felt hot again. Alive. Like it agreed with him. Rest, Eldridge said. Then we'll begin the extraction protocol. Extraction of what? He hesitated only a moment. Of what Glenwood put inside you. Part 3, Segment 1. Before I start, I need to tell you something that I didn't understand until much later. Every road back to Glenwood feels like it's watching you. I don't mean paranoid glances in the review. I mean the asphalt humming under your shoes like a tuning fork. The mountains breathing. The air thick with expectation. Eldridge told me not to leave the safe house, not after the blackout, not after the anchors glowed and the walls whispered. They planned to assess my signature, whatever that meant, and then start pulling Glenwood's residue out of me like old shrapnel. But I couldn't stay. Not when I knew my mother was gone. Not when my father, my dead father, had been dragged away in her body. Not when the shadows kept calling to me in my sleep, calling me by my childhood nickname, the one only my parents ever used. So I walked out at dawn. Not sneaking. Not running. Walking. Like something had already decided the direction for me. I expected alarms. Or guards. Or Eldridge barreling after me with a tranquilizer gun. But the safe house didn't react. It didn't try to stop me. It let me leave. Almost like it was relieved. Almost like it was grateful. The Arizona desert unfolded in pale gold as the sun climbed. The wind had that metallic taste, like hot pennies on the tongue. I followed the old service road toward the highway. For the first mile, everything felt normal, my boots crunching against gravel, cicadas buzzing, the occasional rumble of a distant truck. Then the noise fell away. All of it. Like someone hit mute on the world. I slowed. The cicadas had stopped mid-buzz. The wind paused mid-breath. Even the pebbles under my feet felt suspended. I turned. Something was standing 50 yards behind me. At first, it looked like a heat shimmer. A tall, wobbling distortion of air. But as it moved, the shimmer hardened into form, the way a photograph sharpens when the focus snaps in. It wasn't a shadow from Glenwood. Not the kind that filled rooms with their anger. This one was thin. Human-shaped. Motionless. It pointed at me. I didn't wait to see what it wanted. I ran. The frozen quiet broke wide open, cicadas screaming, wind blasting, trucks roaring from miles away. Time slammed back in place so hard I nearly stumbled. I kept running until I hit the main road. By noon, I reached the town limits of Rifle, Colorado, hitching a ride in the back of a beat-up delivery van whose driver never even glanced at me. When I climbed out, my hands were shaking so hard I dropped the anchor twice. What the hell is happening to me? I whispered. No one answered. Rifle smelled like dust, engine oil, and the cold edges of the mountains. I bought a map from a gas station because my phone was dead, from the safehouse suppression field or from something else entirely, I didn't know. I traced the route back to Glenwood Springs with my thumb. 15 miles from where I stood. My stomach tightened. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. Like something massive and invisible was pulling me forward. I left the highway around dusk. The mountains looked wrong in the fading light, crooked silhouettes, too sharp at the edges, like someone had cut them out and pasted them onto the sky with dull scissors. My breathing shifted. Shallow. Panicked. I wasn't alone. I didn't hear footsteps behind me. I didn't see movement in the trees. But I could feel it. Glenwood was reaching out. Pulling me back like a child tugging a balloon string. Around 7 p.m., I found the first sign something had gone deeply, irreversibly wrong. A deer lay twisted beside the road. Not hit by a car, there was no blood, no impact wounds. It was curled into a fetal position, eyes wide open, jaw slack. And its body was thin. Too thin. As if something had drained it from the inside out but left the skin intact. A soft crack sounded in the trees. I turned slowly. A shape shifted between the pines, low to the ground, too smooth in its movement, gliding more than walking. Not a shadow this time. Not a shimmer. Something wearing the shape of an animal without understanding how animals work. I tightened my grip on the anchor. The shape paused. Then, in a slow, jerking tilt of its head, it looked directly at me. I stepped back. The shape mimicked me, one frame out of sync. When I stepped forward, it lurched forward too. What do you want? I whispered. It didn't answer with words. Instead, a sound tore out of it. Not a growl. Not a bark. A scream. A high, shrill, human scream. I ran. Branches whipped at my face as I tore down the slope, sliding over loose dirt and roots. I didn't stop until the trees thinned and an orange glow flickered through the branches. Not fire. Not sunset. Artificial light. I pushed through the last row of pines. And saw it. The Glenwood Springs containment field. It towered above the town, an enormous lattice of metal pylons, glowing with a pulsating bluish energy that rippled like a force field from an old sci-fi movie. The ground around the structure hummed with low vibration, static crawling along my skin. It wasn't subtle. Wasn't hidden. Anyone driving through the valley should have seen it miles away. But the air around it shimmered with the faint, nauseating bend of a perception filter, the same kind the safe house used. Axiom X Tech, if Eldridge wasn't lying. The closer I got, the more I felt it. A pressure in my sinuses. A ringing in my skull. A tug deep in my chest, like the field recognized me and was calling me in. My hands trembled uncontrollably. The streets below were silent. No cars. No people. No birds. Just the field pulsing above everything, drawing in thin, wavering threads of black mist, shadows, dozens of them, into its central core. The town looked like a still photograph. Frozen. Waiting. And then I saw them. The cubes. Hundreds of them. Clear acrylic-like structures arranged in neat grids across the old community baseball field. Each cube held a person, men, women, teenagers, elderly, some slumped, some shaking violently, some clawing at the walls, some staring blankly at nothing. Each cube had a single number printed on its side. Several had red slashes across them. Failed. I moved closer. A woman pressed her face to the inside of her cube as I approached. Her eyes were wide, pupils blown out, lips cracked. She mouthed something. I leaned closer. At first, I thought she was saying help. But she wasn't. Her lips formed a different word. Hungry. Something behind her shifted. A tall, humanoid shadow rippled inside the cube, standing inches from her, its amorphous face pulsing with a furious red glow. She didn't scream. She didn't react. As if she couldn't see it. Or as if it was part of her now. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a metal cable. The hum of the field vibrated through my spine. Then, a voice drifted across the field. Soft. Hoarse. So familiar, it hit me like a punch. Bob. My breath shattered. I turned. My mother's body stood beside one of the cubes, pale, exhausted, barely upright. Her eyes were wrong, too dim, too sunken, barely aware. But her mouth moved with a very familiar cadence. My father's voice. Bob, you came back. My knees nearly gave out. I reached for her, him, both of them, before instinct made me freeze mid-step. Because standing directly behind her was something I hadn't seen before. Not a shadow. Not a person. Something in between. A half-formed silhouette, as if a shadow had begun to pull itself free of her spine but wasn't finished yet. A dark smear of half-real matter trying to detach, twitching, and quivering like a limb gone numb. My mother's hand reached toward me. But it wasn't her gesture. It was his. My father. Charlie. Trying to hold on. Bob, he whispered again, voice breaking. They are taking us somewhere. I swallowed the scream clawing up my throat. Where? I whispered. He opened his mouth. But a klaxon sounded across the field. Lights flashed. Metal gates slammed shut. A booming voice echoed through the containment speakers. An authorized human entry detected. Apprehension in progress. Floodlights flared to life. Figures emerged from behind the pylons, EDD guards in black armor, their eyes glowing blue-green from the anti-supplant implants. Guns drawn. They saw me. They saw my mother. They saw the half-shadow clinging to her spine. And they started running. Toward us. Toward me. I grabbed the anchor with both hands. My father's voice trembled. Mel, run. But it was too late. The guards reached us first. The world went white. And everything disappeared. Segment 2. When the world came back, it wasn't gradual. It was violent. Sight slammed in first, too bright, too sharp, like someone had scraped the inside of my eyes clean. Then sound followed, rushing in like a flood, and metallic clangs, low mechanical thrum, muffled screaming from somewhere far away, echoing like a memory I didn't want. Then pain. A spike of pressure behind my forehead, radiating outward like someone pressing two cold fingers into the back of my skull. For a moment, I couldn't see anything but white static. When it cleared, I realized I wasn't lying on the ground. I was standing upright. Pressed against a wall. Strapped. Thick bands of metal pinned my wrists and ankles to a cold surface, some kind of containment slab. I tried to twist, but the bands didn't budge. They weren't meant for comfort. They were meant for people, or things, that struggled. My voice cracked when I finally forced a breath through my throat. Dad? Mom? No answer. I craned my neck as far as the restraints allowed. The room was harshly lit, clinical, an industrial facility mixed with something morgue-like. Rows of slabs like mine lined the walls, some occupied, some empty, some shrouded under sheets that looked disturbingly human-shaped. Footsteps echoed. Not hurried. Not alarmed. Measured. Someone who already knew where I was. Someone who didn't need to search. I stopped breathing. A figure rounded the corner, holding a clipboard, wearing an EDD uniform with Axiom X patches on the sleeves, black and sterile, like the fabric itself rejected warmth. Not a guard. Not a grunt. Dr. Janice Chambry. She walked like she'd been built from straight lines and cold logic. No wasted motion, no emotional residue on her face. I'd heard her name from Eldridge, and I'd seen her in a safehouse brochure once, smiling stiffly next to a research breakthrough announcement about liminal cognition. Here, she didn't smile. Miss Callis, she said, tapping her pen twice against the clipboard. Good. You're awake. That spares us one step. My throat tightened. Where am I? She checked a box. Transit Wing 4B. Temporary holding. Where's my mom? My father? The shadow attached to her. Contained. She didn't elaborate. I swallowed. Are they alive? Chambry paused as if deciding whether the question even deserved a response. The host body is alive, she said finally. Host body. That meant my mother. And my father? I whispered. Her expression didn't change. The foreign entity is present. But unstable. Foreign entity. My father. The words hit me so hard I almost choked on them. Chambry must have registered the shift in my breathing, because she finally looked up from the clipboard. Your emotional reaction is atypical, she said flatly. Most subjects exhibit shock or dissociation at this stage. I stared at her. What stage? She stepped closer. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Initial intake, Chambry answered. Followed by analysis. Then evaluation for potential cognitive utility. I pulled against the restraints. Utility for what? She didn't blink. To determine whether your connection makes you viable for controlled supplantation experiments. My stomach clenched. You're not serious. We are very serious, she said. The Glenwood breach forced us to accelerate research. We now have hundreds of hosts, dozens of viable shadows, and one of the rarest conditions we've ever seen. She pointed at me with her pen. A living subject with an established bidirectional liminal tether. I shook my head. I don't know what that means. It means, she said, they recognize you. The room felt suddenly colder. And we need to know why. She walked to a nearby console and typed in a code. A hum rose behind the wall, a different frequency than the safehouse hum. Lower. Thicker. Like machinery waking up. Chambry didn't look at me as she spoke. We know about the dreams. We know about the auditory bleed. We know about the Glenwood event and the way shadows responded to your presence. We know about the father entity inside the mother host. Her fingers continued to fly across the keyboard. But what Aldridge failed to emphasize, she said, is that tethers like yours are fundamental to how intrusions propagate. They don't just enter our world randomly. They need anchors. They need afflicted minds to collapse the boundary. She turned around. And you, Miss Callis, are collapsing faster than anyone we've recorded. The air left my lungs. No, I whispered. You don't I didn't want any of this. I didn't choose. That's precisely why you're important, Chambry said. Voluntary subjects rarely give clean data. I felt my heartbeat in my teeth. What happens now? I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she pressed a button on the console. The restraints tightened. Not painfully, just firmly, decisively. Like the machine was adjusting itself around me. Lights flickered from red to white above my head. A mechanical voice chimed. Cognitive extraction protocol, phase 1, begin. My pulse exploded. No, wait, stop. Chambry didn't even look up. It will be unpleasant, she said unemotionally. But it's survivable. Survivable? I screamed. What are you doing? She finally looked at me, and for the first time, her expression shifted, not into kindness or sympathy, but something like fascination. We're going to open the tether, she said. And observe what pulls on the other end. The walls vibrated. A pressure rose in my skull, sharp at first, then heavy, like invisible hands pressing my temples inward. My vision doubled. Tripled. Trails of movement smearing across the air like wet paint. Then the whispering began. Not outside my head. Inside. Melanie. The voice rippled, layered, glitching between tones. You shouldn't have come back. I shook my head violently. No, get out, get out. Chambry scribbled notes. Her voice was clinical. Subject responds to initial bleed. Good. Increase amplitude. The pressure doubled. My breath hitched. My knees buckled even though I was strapped upright. The voice sharpened. They are watching you. I clenched my teeth until something in my jaw popped. Then, another voice cut through the static. Hoarse. Weak. Bub, can you hear me? My father. I fought against the restraints so hard the metal groaned. Dad, I'm here. The light stuttered. Chambry stiffened at her console. Unexpected interference, she muttered. We're getting an internal cross signal. Source, unidentified. The air tasted like electricity about to arc. My father's voice came again, closer, like he was right behind my ear. Bub. You need to stop listening. They're trying to open you. I don't have a choice. I cried. Then don't let them in. His voice warped, pained. As if something was dragging him backward. I screamed. Dad! A new sound tore through the room. A long, low, guttural moan. Not human. Not shadow. Something deeper. Something big. The lights flickered again, 2 times, then 3, like a warning. Machine squealed. The restraints vibrated. The air pressure dropped so fast my ears rang. Chambry slammed her hand down on the console. Abort the test. Abort. But she was too late. Something hit the room. A shockwave, not physical, not sonic, something else, blasted through the air, knocking papers off tables, flickering the lights, scattering instrument readings. Chambry staggered, grabbing onto a railing. What the hell? A metallic groan rolled through the wall to my right. Like something massive was sliding, or forming. The voice in my head returned. Mel, let us see. I screamed, shaking. No, and no. A fracture of black light cracked across the wall, yes, light, but black like a tear in a photograph. It widened with each pulse of the field outside the room. Chambry panicked, scrambling for the emergency control panel. Security! We need level 5 containment, now! The tear widened. A shape pressed against it from the other side. Not a shadow. Not a person. Something indescribable, bending the air around it like heat warping asphalt. Chambry's voice was shrill. Shut it down. Shut it. The tear exploded outward. Blackness poured in like liquid smoke, swirling with a terrible, hungry joy. The restraints around my wrists hissed, and snapped open. The anchor in my pocket vibrated violently. I fell to the floor as alarms screamed overhead. Chambry stumbled backward, eyes wide. "What are you?" she shouted at the thing coming through the tear. It didn't answer. It didn't need to. Because when it turned toward me, when its faceless shape leaned in, when it reached out with a hand like a smear of shadow, I heard its voice clearly. "Melanie Callis. We finally found you." And then everything collapsed into black. Segment 3. I'm writing this from a vibrating metal floor, hands tied behind me, the entire world shaking in and out of focus each time the transport truck hits a pothole. There's a flickering strip light bolted to the ceiling, one of those industrial ones with a hum that worms its way into your skull, and I swear the shadows it throws don't stay where they should. They stretch the wrong direction. They move when nobody else does. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I need to tell you how Glenwood ended. I need to tell you what they did to us before they hauled us away. And if this is the last thing I ever write, at least somebody on the outside will know. 1. The house isn't empty, but it should be. When Eldridge's car disappeared down the road, the silence around my neighborhood felt engineered. Like someone had scooped out all the natural sound, no wind, no bugs, no distant highway, and replaced it with a pressure that pushed against your eardrums. My legs were shaking by the time I stepped onto my street. Every mailbox had the same government sticker, EDD emergency mandate, do not enter, level hazard 3C. The words were printed in red. Too red. Wet red. I kept thinking about Dad, well, Dad and Mom, and the way he'd said my name like he had borrowed breath from somewhere else. I didn't know what I was expecting to find inside the house. Maybe her body on the floor. Maybe the shadow wearing her like a puppet. Maybe nothing at all. What I found was worse. The front door was cracked open. Only an inch, but enough to see the boot print near the bottom. Not Mom's. Not Dad's. Someone had kicked it. Inside, the air was warm and stale, and the living room smelled like copper and burnt dust. A lamp was lying broken on the floor, and Mom's reading glasses were crushed next to it. "Dad?" I whispered. No answer. But something in the hallway moved, slow, hesitant. Like someone who had forgotten how bones are supposed to work. I stepped forward. That's when I saw him. Or them. Or both. Mom's body was leaning against the wall like she had been set there. Her face pale, lips cracked, hair tangled. But her eyes, those were Dad's. Not in color or shape, but in attention. He looked at me like he was trying to carve the moment into memory before the body gave out completely. "Bub," he rasped. The voice scraped up from her throat like a dry echo. "We don't have much time." I don't know how to describe seeing a parent alive again through a dead parent's body. It's like every part of your brain tries to short-circuit at once. Grief and relief collide. You want to run toward them and away from them in the same breath. I knelt beside him. "Mom. Dad, whoever, what's happening? Where is she? Is she inside with you? Is she?" He shook his head. "Slow. Labored. She's gone. I used what she had left to reach you." It hit me like a physical strike. I had known, deep down. But hearing it final was something else. Dad's borrowed lungs rattled. I tried to stay anchored. But this place is collapsing. The field, he coughed violently, bloody spit spotting the hardwood. They are taking everyone. You need to. The window next to us shattered inward. I screamed and shoved myself against the opposite wall. Dad slid down the hallway, collapsing into a shaking heap. A boot stepped through the broken glass. Then another. 3 sentries entered, full black armor, teal glowing visors, rifles aimed at us. Hosts identified, one barked through a metallic amplifier. non-approved shadow presence detected. Dad looked up at me with Mom's eyes, red-rimmed and dimming. I'm sorry, Bub. Then they fired the suppression field. It felt like the air was ripped sideways. Every molecule around my body jerked and pulled. I slammed to the ground, muscles spasming. Dad convulsed, limbs locking in angles that shouldn't exist. His shadow stretched behind him, unnaturally long and trembling like it was trying to escape. Don't! I screamed. Stop! He's not like the others. Leave him. Supplant deadly state confirmed, the lead sentry said. Dad mouthed something at me. Just one word. Run. But I couldn't. They already had me. 2. The cubes. They dragged us, me, Dad, and a few other captured hosts, down the street toward what used to be the elementary school soccer field. But instead of goalposts and chalk lines, the whole area was filled with black monoliths, a meter-wide containment cubes, humming with white-blue bars of energy that flickered like an unstable heartbeat. Some cubes held people. Some held bodies. Some held shapes. And some held nothing but a single thrashing shadow, like a human silhouette made of smoke and screaming regret. Each cube was labeled with a serial number and classification. Supplant, aggressive. Supplant, deranged. Host, vacant. Partial inversion. Failed tether. One cube held a boy sitting cross-legged, head thrown back, eyes rolled white while a black smoke hand pressed from inside his throat. He wasn't breathing. He was vibrating. Another cube held a middle-aged man with his mouth stretching wider, and wider, and wider, as something inside pushed outward. The sentries walked past like it was normal. Dad wasn't put in a cube. He was strapped to a slab-like gurney with scanning wires stuck to Mom's temples. A scientist in a radiant white coat, axiom blue trim, clipboard strapped to her arm, walked up to me. She looked me in the eye. And smiled. You must be Callus. I didn't know her name then, but I'd hear it later. Dr. Janice Chambry. Lead researcher. Lead butcher. She looked down at Mom and Dad on the gurney. A cooperating shadow is very rare, she mused. Fascinating. We've only documented 3. She waved to the sentries. Load them. Both. 3. The truck. The truck they shoved us into wasn't for people. The air inside smelled of chemicals, dust, and something sharp, like burnt plastic mixed with old blood. Metal clasps on the walls were shaped like restraints. Chains hung from the ceiling like they expected some of the hosts to lose shape during transit. 3 sentries climbed in with us. 8 other people, some fully human, some clearly supplanted, were slumped along the wall. One woman's head twitched every 15 seconds in the same direction, like a clock hand hitting a gear. A teenager next to me whispered over and over, voice shaking. They see through your dreams, they see through your dreams. Until one of the sentries jabbed him with a tranquilizer. Dad lay unconscious, strapped to the far end. The door slammed. The locks clicked. The engine roared. We started moving. And then, everything got worse. 4. Inside the transit, shadows hate closed spaces. I didn't know this before. I learned it the painful way. Shadows don't like being trapped. The boy across from me, couldn't be older than 16, started convulsing. His back arched so sharply I heard a crack. The shadow in him tried to push out through his skin like a hand pressing behind a thin curtain. The sentries grabbed him. Strapped him down. Injected him with something black. He stopped moving. But the shadow inside him continued. The skin on his chest fluttered, as if something was breathing independently. I pressed against the wall, squeezing myself between 2 metal beams. A voice next to me whispered, "You shouldn't have come back." I turned. It was Lynn. Or the thing wearing Lynn. Her smile was wrong, too wide, like a child drawing a smile without knowing how faces work. Always had to be the brave one, huh, she crooned. Had to come back for mommy. Had to play the hero. Lynn, I whispered. Please. Fight it. She tilted her head. Fight it? Mel, sweetie. Her voice distorted, dropping half an octave. This is me. Before she could move closer, a sentry slammed her head into the wall and restrained her. She laughed the whole time. 5. Dad wakes up. A metallic groan rippled through the truck as we hit a rough patch of road. The light above flashed. For a second everything went dark. When the light snapped back on, Dad was awake. But he wasn't in control anymore. His shadow had peeled partway off the body. It rose behind him, her silhouette, but his posture, his presence. A double image. A ghost stapled to flesh. He spoke with both voices layered. Mel. Bub. Listen. The closest sentry aimed his rifle. Dad raised a hand and the air shimmered. The rifle jammed. Electricity sparked across the metal floor. The sentry stumbled back, hand smoking. The other two advanced, raising tranquilizers. Dad slumped forward suddenly, like a puppet with cut strings, and Mom's body went limp again. The shadow behind him flickered. A whisper filled the truck. They're going to split us. Don't let them. Then Dad collapsed fully. Chambry's voice crackled through the comm panel on the wall. Sedate the shadow host. Do not damage the vessel. We need them stable for the Arizona trials. My blood went cold. Trials. 6. The road out of Colorado. The truck kept moving for hours. Maybe 6. Maybe 10. My sense of time dissolved in the metallic shaking and the screams from the other hosts. Sometimes the sentries talked quietly to each other, thinking we couldn't hear. Glenwood's lost. Axiom wants the survivors. Not survivors. Samples. A few will make good anchors if the tether holds. They never hold. When one of the shadows tried ripping free from a teenage girl, the sentries used some sort of pulse device, a spherical detonator that created a shockwave of white light. The girl stopped thrashing. She didn't breathe again. One sentry marked her clipboard. Host failure, shadow dispersed. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted iron. 7. The border to Arizona. Near midnight, the truck finally slowed. The hum of a checkpoint scanner passed over us like a heatwave. A mechanical voice rang outside. Access granted, Axiom EX clearance T4. Containment payload confirmed. The doors unlatched. We weren't in Glenwood anymore. We were in the desert. A facility built into the rock, floodlights carving harsh white arcs across sand and concrete. An underground loading bay opened in front of us, its steel doors yawning like a mechanical throat. Chambry stood waiting, clipboard in hand, expression almost delighted. Behind her, a massive logo was carved into the concrete wall. Axiom EX. Beyond the veil. Beyond humanity. My stomach turned so hard I nearly vomited. Sentries dragged us out one by one. Chambry stopped when she reached me. Welcome, Ms. Callis, she said warmly. You're going to be very important for what comes next. Behind her, two scientists wheeled Dad's unconscious body toward a different wing. No. I lunged forward, but the sentries pinned me instantly. Chambry didn't even flinch. She just smiled. Don't worry. We're keeping him alive. For now. She nodded at the guards. Take her to holding. Non-lethal restraints. She's a control subject. Control subject. My skin crawled. The guards dragged me through steel corridors.